Good afternoon, I'm Dennis Galucki and welcome to the 408th Imagine Buffalo program and another great virtual Imagine lecture hosted by the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. Thanks so much for joining us today. This program is created by the Center for the Study of Art, Architecture, History, and Nature, or as I pronounce the acronym, Cezanne, and ImagineLifelongLearning.com. Now, we're going to start with our speakers shortly, but first, a little housekeeping. Everyone watching will be muted during our speakers presentation, which will last about 15 minutes or so. We will have time for questions at the end. If you do have a question, please type it into the chat box and we'll get to as many as we can. This program is being recorded. You'll be able to watch it again later on the library's Facebook and YouTube channels, and share the link with your networks. As a reminder, Life Willing will be here on Zoom every Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. with a great lineup of local speakers. Now, today is the second Tuesday of the month, so our focus is on architecture and design. Our theme is Imagine Place-Based Lifelong Learning, and I can't imagine a better organization and speaker than we have today. Our featured speaker is Michelle Urbanczyk. Michelle is a seasoned leader and nonprofit executive with over 24 years of high-level fundraising, programming, strategic planning, financial oversight, and business management experience at SUNY Oswego. She earned her bachelor's degree in education and her master's degree in vocational technical education and business administration. Mrs. Urbanczyk is currently the CEO of Explore and More Children's Museum, which opened its new museum at Canalside in 2019. She has also served as president of EPIC, Every Person Influences Children, and development director with the Buffalo Society of Natural Sciences and project associate at the University Center for Academic and Workforce Development Research in Albany. She is a 2011 Leadership Buffalo graduate and a 2017 recipient of the Business First Women of Influence Award. And now let's welcome Michelle Urbanczyk. Michelle?
Hi, thank you, Dennis, for that wonderful introduction. Hi, everyone. Some of you I do know, and I can't see all of the screen, so I apologize for that. But I'm going to get started, and we'll have some questions at the end. But just give me a minute, because I got to get on to share screen. So it takes some of us technology don'ts a minute to do it. Okay, wonderful. Do you have my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. So you're seeing just such a beautiful image at night of our building. We're very fortunate to be at Canalside. We responded to an RFP that was out by Empire State Development and ECHDC, which is Erie County Harbor Development Corporation, in 2012. It predated me, but my wonderful predecessor, Barbara Leggett, actually started our journey. And we are in the building that we are today. Originally, we were supposed to be a little bit over where Nick Sinatra is building the Heritage Point Centers, but we are at this wonderful site that is right aligned with the canal, so we're very lucky to be here. So let's kind of go to the next slide. So this is where we were. We started in 1994, and I want to kind of give you a little bit of this because it plays with how we talk about design in architecture. So Explore More was started, and as we talk about Erie County's 200th and the Year of Illumination, we were actually started by a group of educators, parents, stakeholders, just people who wanted to have a place based for children to play. And it started around a kitchen table, and Explore More became incorporated in June of 1994. It started in a basement, and then we moved here. This was our Glebe location, which was in the suburbs of East Aurora, and it was really wonderful, except it was 6,000 square feet. And at the time, it was huge for us. And our daily attendance was about 63,000 people a year with an annual budget about 582,000. and it was a birth to 7. And the reason why, and I have some slides to show you, but it was really just that was the space and that's what we could accommodate. And then we flip forward to Waterfall 2019. So we opened in June, officially June 27th of 2019. We are still a toddler, and that's what I like to say. If you take away the COVID year, we're actually really an infant. But we went from being birthed to about 10 years old. If you talk to most of our parents, they'll play and they'll say it's really for them as well. But our footprint is about 43,000 square feet. Our estimated attendance, and again, it's estimated because we have not had a full year under our belt. I know it sounds crazy. It seems like we've been here forever, but we have yet to experience a full year at Explore and More with regular visitation. And I don't anticipate to have our attendance to where it needs to be probably until year 2023. When I project we'll right size, during this pandemic. Our annual budget is 2.3 million. That has changed since COVID. I think everyone's budgets have changed, but that's really where we were hovering right around. And our capital campaign that we raised to be here was 29 million, which we achieved. We went from a staff of 51. And right now we're not at a staff of 51. So I put where we were and where we are today, just to kind of give a comparison, because I always get those questions of where are you now? And I wanted to share that. So we had a wonderful design. So before at Explore and More, if you visited our Explore and More in East Aurora, we had these beautiful, authentic, grassroots, lovingly created exhibits that really was centered around brain development. And what makes children's museums very unique is this is the only place that's really built for children. And it's built for children to do hands-on, touching experiences that really get children of all different abilities on an equal playing field. And the reason why it's important to have hands-on is because it stimulates the brain. And that's really what we're looking for with children in children's museums. But one of the things that's really interesting is children learn by doing. And so this was our Farm to Fork in East Aurora, and some of you might remember it. You've either went as a child, brought your own children, brought your grandchildren, and then today, this is what we look like today. It's a vast difference. You're seeing a lot of architectural design. So we went from 6,000 square feet to 43. So everything gets a little bigger. But what you're seeing within this exhibit is you're seeing a lot of space. And the reason why you're seeing a lot of space is we are a children's museum that is really dedicated to serving all children of all different abilities. And so what we have here is you're going to see quite a bit of empty space in our museum. And the reason why is because we have children and adults who use mobility devices and they need to be able to move around. So we, in building the museum, there was a couple things that came to mind. And one of them was really, we're building this museum. It's a children's museum. It's a first of its kind for Buffalo. We were the only city of our size that did not have a children's museum. So if you look at Pittsburgh, Detroit, Cleveland, anything along the Great Lakes, they all had children's museums. We did not. And so when it came to really looking at the design and what this museum needed to be, there was many focus groups. And what was amazing about it is everything came back to a couple things. And it was a museum that is about Western New York that tells our story. And you might say, well, how does that differ from a history museum? History is really the, I call it the impetus of keeping our history alive. And it has the archives and the history. We're telling our story of current, past, and future through a children's lens. So I get that quite a bit of how do we differ. We're not telling history. We're not archiving. We do not have a collections. We are clearly hands-on of our children learning the story through interpretive play. So that's really important distinction. And we do not have a collections area. But if you're looking at this, you're seeing big things and you're seeing things that are sponsored through our community. So we are about Western New York. We also, the other thing we heard was it had to be inclusive. We had to be welcoming for all different abilities of children with everything that they come in different shapes and sizes. So we had to be able to handle and have all different abilities of parents, children, young adults coming into the museum. And we really took that to heart. And you're seeing that through the design, and you're seeing that through lighting, noise, and just the delicate care that I think the designers took in ensuring that it hit those marks. So I'm going to go through a couple more. The next one is, if you remember, we had a building buffalo, and this area really was about building and teaching kids about the home. And now we have this as our building buffalo. Again, you're seeing the updated in design and the work. One of the things I do want to call your attention is you are seeing, and I don't know if you can see through my pointer, you're seeing this cross bracing here. In our design, we actually sit on the original odd site where the ice equipment is, and we do have a sub basement. So we actually have 4 floors and a sub basement. It is really nothing to see besides a whole bunch of the original odd ice equipment in terms of the machinery and what makes the ice work at Canal Side. But because of that, that's how our floors are sustained, is through the cross bracing, which makes it unique. Everyone thought it was a purposeful design here in terms of we're doing it for look, and it actually is not a look. It's actually more practical in how the flooring was designed. So I wanted to share that with you because people always go, wow, that's really cool design, and thought it was just part of the look. And it's actually more practical on how the floors had to be built and sustained. We have a moving water. What makes this area very unique in the design is we decided to do a 2-story waterfall, which sounds really good in theory. And it is, it's quite lovely. It's very beautiful. It lights up at night. We're able to change colors depending on, we just had a blue for Autism Awareness Month. And it's really spectacular if you see it through the evening through the windows. It is an Achilles heel for us because having a 2-story waterfall that really has not been done before, we keep pushing the envelope on things that have not been done before. I always say we always check for leaks every day on that. So I always say in design, there's things we did really, really well and things that look really, really well that we would probably rethink again. And this is one of them because it has tested my patience. I've turned gray 3 different times, I swear, because of it, but it was a good design. We have things that are hands-on. This is our tinkering studio, and we have things in here such as 3D printers. We have laser cutters. This is the hands-on experience of children and doing. If this is actually a picture of a couple months ago, if you see it now, during COVID, we had taken what should have been our worst time and reconfigured a lot of the museum in terms of the design and what we wanted to do. And a lot of it has changed from colors of the wall to moving exhibits around and just updating things that are not working has been our theme throughout. I'm just going to show you some pictures and then we could talk a little bit about play. We have wonderful outdoor space. This is taken from our terrace. Again, it's a safe spot. One of the things we heard from our parents, we were going to actually enclose this in. And one of the things we heard from our focus groups is this is the one area the kids look forward to. In our first year of opening, we had such a mild winter. We were able to keep the terrace open almost every single day. Which was huge because our parents in our community love the outdoor space. So we put things such as bikes, water tables, just different kind of manipulatives out on the terrace. Eventually we'll have a sensory garden in the terrace area. That is one of the designs for it. But it is an outdoor space that is safe and it is used lovingly quite a bit. Our newest exhibit, so we're kind of an oxymoron, because exploring more, you're seeing, we are, in the same thing that many of our nonprofits are, and that is we are struggling. Operationally, we are struggling for those dollars. And the reason is because we see about 20% capacity, where our break-even point is 60% capacity. So you could kind of do the math and go, wow, you're sold out, but yet you're sold out at 20 to 25% a day. But in between A and B, we decided during COVID, let's build an exhibit completely on Zoom. And that's what we did. So we actually built one of our newest exhibits by Delta Sonic. So we have amazing sponsors throughout this, foundations, companies. We really tell the Western New York story. And I had an opportunity to work with Mr. Benderson, and we decided to build a car wash. And it's a first of its kind. So we had a great company, a designer and a fabricator. So Gyroscope helped us design it. My own crew here helped design it. And then Boss, who's a fabricator, actually fabricated this exhibit for us. And it's a first of its kind. So one of the things we're very lucky about is we actually hold the rights to this design, which is huge for us because no other museum has a car wash such as this. And this will become a revenue generator in terms of selling the design later on. But it's really immersive. You're seeing the child on the left-hand side on the bottom. Those are liquid floors. We had to make sure that we got samples. And then during COVID, we literally had to lay these floors down and make sure kids with mobility devices or adults with walkers can safely get across these. And we've had to change the design quite a bit, all via Zoom. And this was probably, I think, one of my happiest exhibits to do, because imagine doing $1 million exhibit in measurements and everything else, and you're hoping you're accurate because you're giving it to somebody else to basically build offsite, to bring onsite and do an installation and hope everything fits. And fate was on our side because, ironically enough, everything fit. So it was wonderful to see it produced offsite and then brought in pieces here, but nevertheless, it fit on the first go round. So we were very lucky with that. And with a new exhibit, we tend to keep it up. It's not finished. It's about 90% completed. And the reason why is we test it with different focus groups. So we actually launch every exhibit that we have with members, and we have an evening called Awesome Evenings. And Awesome Evenings is once a month, and it's free to families, and they're able to come if their children has any sensory processing or traumatic brain disorder, so they can come and play, and they can bring friends and family. It's just a great evening, but we test it out on our children and our families because they will tell us if something is missing the mark from a sensory processing. And then our members are very loyal to us, and they will tell us if we got it right or didn't get it right. And I love that. I love that honest feedback. We were happy because we can add more elements to the car wash that is a little bit pushing the envelope on sensory, but yet safe for our children. And that's what we're really looking at in every part of the design. One of the things that's very unique about Explore More is we have different lighting systems and different exhibit control panels that we can change things for different evenings. So Awesome Evenings has a different setting if we're seeing preschoolers at a certain time. So there's different lighting and sound that we can change really quickly. It's just on a panel, and our whole team has access to that. One of the other ones it's a temporary exhibit, but we decided to build a tree house on a 4th floor. And you talk about design and creative design, but what we really wanted was to create a play experience that was sensory friendly. And the other thing is a tree house that everyone can get into. So we built something else that we have shared with other children's museums across the country, and it is an all-access treehouse, meaning if you have a mobility device, you're in a wheelchair or walker, whether you're an adult or a child, you can get into the treehouse. There's actually a lift. What makes this amazing is we built it on a 4th floor. So the weight had to be around certain studs on the floor. So the designer, who was Buffalo Treehouse, really had they did an amazing job because, you know, my criteria was it had to have the look of Western New York, which it does. It had to be mobility friendly, which means it had to be ADA compliant. And then it had to go into these certain studs on the floor for engineering where there was, you know, reinforced steel. And they delivered. And why this exhibit was only supposed to be temporary, it's actually supposed to come down next year. We will be keeping it up for another year just because of the pandemic, due to the fact that we are closed 4 months and now at our lower capacity. It's just not getting the same amount of love and use as it would in a regular day. So on a given day now, we're seeing about 300 people. Maybe a little bit more, in between 3 and 4. And on a regular day, we're seeing about 1,000 to 1,200 people a day. So we're really, it's not getting the usage, which is good from an exhibit standpoint in terms of the wear and tear, but in terms of the usability and children playing, it has a unique, we have a little bit more shelf life for this. So we have that. So I wanted to share that. And again, I'm going to go back to our beautiful picture of the museum. Again, you're seeing a lot of windows, a lot of light. It's really good for children and creativity. We use as much natural light as we can get. And so we're really almost all windows. A little tidbit I do want to share with you is we can't clean the windows. So we are all windows and can't clean them. And it's because we cannot get the equipment around the canal or the skyway. So we could always have beautiful windows on the east side of the building, but the other sides we do not. So we always joke around when we see infomercials on, you know, different ways to clean windows, if we could test it out, and none of them have worked yet. But I wanted to share that with you because that was a little tidbit of, we're all windows, but one of the things that we missed the mark on was how to clean the windows and build that into the design process. So as you're talking about design and children's museums, or just museums in general, I sit on a couple panels for other children's museums across the country who are building. And it's so funny, my input to them is always the oddest things of, how are you cleaning that? How are you getting up there? And they laugh at me because it's not anything having to do besides logistics of cleaning. But I wanted to share that with you because it's one of those things that as you're building and things are beautiful, it's the how-tos. So I wanted to share that. But again, we are built for and designed for. So if you're looking at the images of things I showed you, and I'll kind of go back to this one just real quick. Again, everything's meant to be touched, played with. One of the things that we hear quite a bit is parents will be like, no, don't touch this, don't. And it's like, no, 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 everything from the donor wall. So if you come and you see our donor wall is a touched wall. It's part of an exhibit. To the electrical sockets, we get a lot on, we don't have the plugs on the electrical sockets. And we had to actually put some signage up for that because our families were concerned that the child would put their finger in there. Well, so were we, and we know how children work, but plugs are actually not good for us because it can become a choking hazard. So we actually have plugs that if a child puts their hand in there, it's going to do nothing. So it's always that creative design of everything in the museum we knew a child would somehow touch or do. And we really wanted to stimulate that play and not say, okay, you could touch this, but not this. Everything was designed and meant to be touched in the museum. And it was very thoughtfully done. We were very lucky for our interior. We had Gyroscope help with the design. They did the design. Art Guild did the bulk of the fabrication. Foyt Albert was amazing architects who really thought of every danger zone, along with Savarino. Sam Savarino and his team really did a yeoman's job on ensuring how the design was. And then, you know, of course, ECHDC had their designers, FF&E and LaChase, who built the exterior. So we're kind of an anomaly. We had one group build the core and shell and another group do the interior. Perfect. I think I'm going to open up for questions because I didn't realize I talked this long, so I apologize. But when it comes to this museum, I have a tremendous amount of energy around it. I do want to share we are actually in a, we are actually modifying our third floor. We talked a lot about access and inclusion, and one of the areas we constantly do is we have a group that is on a continuous improvement of things we've got right and things that miss the mark. When you're doing 43,000 square feet of all brand new, there's things that is going to miss the mark, and we know that, and you can't beat yourself up over it. You just kind of go, how do we repurpose this? So next year, if everything goes well at this time, we'll be under construction to reconfigure the third floor, our playing together area, and making it something very unique that nobody else in the country will have. And I know this because we're working with the designers right now who actually do it, but we're looking to do something very unique for Western New York and our children. So,
that's good to hear, Michelle. Yeah. Michelle, that's great to hear. Wonderful presentation. Thank you. Folks, this is your chance to ask questions. Please type them into the chat box if you have any, but let me take the big picture, and especially since you mentioned, Michelle, you're on various other, well, I'm sure there's an association for children's museums.
There is.
And you're obviously representing Buffalo and Western New York well by being part of that. The term sustainability is so much, so greatly entering, and wisely so, our vocabulary. It strikes me that a children's museum is that perfect entry spot for families, adults, and children to be learning something about and looking out the windows, clean or otherwise, to see the effects of sustainability on the air, on the water, on the land, the waterfront, right where you are. How do you imagine being a player in helping us all better understand the idea of sustainability?
That's a great question, Dennis. So it was so funny because I thought you were going to say sustainability financial. I'm so glad you did it.
And there's that too. There's that too.
But no, we are a player. So that was one of the things with our car wash story and where we purposely put it right to the moving water, because I did not realize the amount of, washing your car in your own driveway and what it does to the rivers and the lakes, and what goes into that, and how using filtrated water helps become a good steward of the planet. But we tell that story in moving water. But we are also very lucky. Let me explain something about Children's Museum. We're a community museum. We're not the experts on the sustainability, but we work with many of our partners who are, and know the science and know, so we have River Creators, we have Museum of Science, Penn-Dixie, those are the experts. And we really look to them for the content. So you'll see in the museum that we'll have docent carts. We don't have a lot of graphics, because our children can't read at 3 and 4, but they can learn through doing. So we really work with a lot of partners to ensure, are we telling the right story? Because if we could tell it at a younger age for our children, our parents actually learn it too. We've heard that from parents going, I didn't know that either. But I think it's just telling the story by the people who know it best. And that's what Explore and More does, is we provide the outlet for others to come in and really showcase the talents and the knowledge that our community brings.
Let's see if this has sparked any questions. Leah, any from our audience?
Yes, we have a few. How often do you expect the exhibits to change?
Let me explain. We don't have an exhibits department. So the exhibits team is me and my operations person. And believe me, I probably could fix almost everything here with them. They don't want me to, and they don't give me a tool, but we change them as we're seeing something's flawed, or as we want to add, or as there's a different story to tell. So remember, when we opened, we didn't open at 100%. We still had some areas that were blank canvases, so they were placeholders. But one of the things that makes me happy the most is when people come and going, this wasn't here 2 months ago. And it might just be something small, but we're constantly doing a continuous improvement. We walk the museum every month and decide what goes on what list to change. But as I said, our third floor is spectacular, but it's missing the mark. So things will be repurposed and moved around. Nothing will be gone. It's just going to be moved. and then we're going to do something just a little bit different. But every year we want to have something new for our families.
And what is the target age group for your activities?
It depends, because we have areas for our littlest guys, meaning, you know, just our crawlers to 2 years. Then we have all the way up to 10. I've had teenagers in the museum just recently through just some, you know, play just to kind of relieve stress. And they had fun. We have grown-up nights of play. As a matter of fact, we haven't had one in a year in person, and our first one will be in June. And it's not for any reason besides the fact that our grown-ups want to play too. So when we talk about play, it's really just letting your mind go to learn and do something different. And it's a stress reliever. So our sweet spot is really the ages of 2 to about 9. But we see everyone. Prior to the pandemic, we actually had senior trips coming to the museum to play. And it's a lot of fun because it's just something different that we didn't have when we were little.
Leah, any others?
Nope, those are all the questions.
Well, I'll just observe, we have, when I speak of lifelong learning, colleges, universities, Buffalo State teachers, up and coming teachers. How do you envision interacting with those types of institutions to share insights of how education and lifelong learning is evolving?
You know, it's amazing. We actually have quite a bit of, you know, universities do studies out of the museum, which is great, which is wonderful. Everything from, you know, are the exhibits, do they actually teach? Our kids actually, you know, is informal learning better than formal learning? So we have universities do quite a bit of studies, which is really great. We have a lot of partnerships with the universities to have, you know, interns. We do our awesome evenings, which is completely run through University of Buffalo and Buffalo State College. And it's really their students who really run the bulk of the evenings. But we really leverage the museum and the knowledge because we want to know. We want to know how to improve, how to do better. Just recently, they did a study on, does germs actually stay on things? How long do they stay on things at the museum? And we want to know. Those are things people are like, why do you, we want to know. This is our community. These are our babies that are coming in and our children coming in. We want to know what's the safest way to do things. And it's really through partnerships and knowledge to keep that continuous improvement.
Well, thank you, Michelle. I'm an optimist. This too will pass COVID, and I see about 5 million folks from Southern Ontario that are going to want to, many of them are going to want to stop at Canalside and visit your children's museum. So
we miss our Ontario friends quite a bit. We really miss our families. We really do. Well,
let's count the days, and that will happen. So, folks, thank you so much for joining us today. Michelle, thank you for that great presentation. Join us next week, same time, same Zoom link, when we will be hearing from Shane Stevenson, an author who, with Howard Zemsky, wrote the book, The Larkin Company, and that's what he'll be focusing on next Tuesday. I'm Dennis Galecki. Be well and have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you.